What's up everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie and today is the third episode of Triple T Tuesday's Tea Time. I got a request in the first video that I answered in the second video asking to see me actually make the tea. So I thought while getting ready for this week's starting, brewing my tea, I would answer some questions and do that at the same time. So cool. First thing I do, choose the mug I want to use. This one is the one I got from Mesa Verde, which is really cool. The tea that I'm choosing to use today, lemon citron from David's Tea. I have done a review of this, and this tin is like the hardest thing to open. There we go. Oh, it smells so good. It's an oolong blend. It's basically just lemon. That's pretty much all it is. I open up a bag here. It's also from David's Tea. Pretty much everything I have is from David's Tea. It's Canadian and they have awesome teas. So I take a scoop of my tea, place it into the bag, and then I take just a little bit more, put it into the bag as well. One kind of tip that you can really take advantage of with loose leaf tea that you can't do so much with pre-bagged is you can often steep these again. So this is like the first time that I'll be steeping this. Once I drink, the contents of my mug, if I choose to have another one, I can re-steep it using the exact same, leaves, so the same bag. I wouldn't really do it more than twice because it does get a little bit weaker the second time that you brew it, but you definitely can, so your tea goes much farther. I also put in just a teeny bit of rock sugar. So this is German rock sugar, so basically it's unrefined. Kind of has just a little bit of a molasses flavor, just a hint. I only throw in a couple rocks. This tea is not one that I add a lot to. If I have really strong teas, specifically real strong black teas, then I will add more. I'm gonna get my water boiling, which is the kettle right there, to 212 full rolling boil, and then we will answer some questions. Boiling, I'm gonna throw some questions at you. Same thing as last week, gonna rock through the iPad, pick out some random questions, and answer them as best as I can. So George Little asked, could you show us your tea collection, please? Well, George, absolutely, I can. Which admittedly is not the neatest collection in the world. It's just kind of shoved all up in this cupboard. But this is what I've got. So in the left-hand side of the cupboard, I have teas that I typically ice. So I have raspberry jam, blueberry jam, a oolong tea, and a North African mint. So those, especially these two, to me taste better iced than they do in their hot variety. And then I have my actual iced teas. So luscious watermelon, pink lemonade, and pineapple Kona Pop, and just peachy. So I got those kind of tucked away there. I have a chocolate orange pu'er tea. I'm not actually a giant fan of that one. And then I have David's breakfast tea, which is kind of similar along the lines of Irish afternoon tea. I drink this when I want a really strong kick in the pants. And then my Irish whiskey cream that I'm trying not to drink very often because I got this one in Ireland and I can't really get it again, and it is unbelievably tasty. I got these 3 little tins, from Guess Where. They're basically just straight up black tea. Oh, that's upside down. Just English breakfast tea. So same pretty much as David's breakfast, just the English. And if I move those aside, I have English toffee, which tastes pretty much exactly how it smells. Tivana Jade Citrus Mint, which is similar to, dropping them, North African mint, except this one's a little bit spicier, so I prefer it iced, whereas this one I just like to rock it as is. Move these out of the way. I've got a busted up label for Citron Oolong, which is basically just like a very light lemon tea, and it's delicious. I have Chai and Mighty, chocolate cake, coffee puera. I got some rock sugar, which I also have another thing of rock sugar. That's the preferred sugar that I like to use because it does add a little bit of flavor and it just tastes better to me. Cream of Earl Grey, Read My Lips. I really like this one. It's kind of like a chocolate mint. Lemon pound cake, which pretty much tastes just like the name suggests. Nepal Black, which is another tea that I really like. Cardamom French Toast and Snow Day. Those are both winter specials from last winter, and they're both delicious. And then over here is most of my like pre-bag / just random stuff. So Irish afternoon tea, a big box, obviously, of just Earl Grey Twinnings. This is, what's this? Oh yeah, ice cream cake flavored. I'm not a huge fan of that one personally. These are just my loose bags that I fill up. The skinny, under here I have Honeycrisp apple. And then over here I have just like all the random samples that David's Tea will send you when you place an order online. And this is cold 911, so you drink it when you're sick. And then up here, I just have two ones that don't fit down there. So Stash Hazelnut, Chocolate Hazelnut, and Tazo Chai. So that's pretty much my tea collection. As of today, it changes weekly, to be honest, as I finish tea and as I acquire new ones. So I could do it probably again in a couple weeks and it'll be different, but as of today, this is what I have. So George, thank you for your question. Next question we have is from Leslie Inglis. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced your name last time. If I got it right, you know, let me know, sweet. Question and answer material. How many pens do you currently have within your collection? Do you impose any limitations to the amount you would like to own, e.g. 1 in, 1 out rule? I discovered fountain pens in an effort to be more minimal / sustainable, but if I'm honest, I could probably pare down my collection. Darn you, Lamy, with your limited run of pretty colors. I totally agree that, you know, about the whole sustainable, minimal thing, but that quickly goes out the window when you start getting more than just a few pens. How many I have in my collection, without counting, I want to say around 40, 45. Which is a little excessive, but most of those, I have never gotten rid of a pen since starting, so most of them are very low-end pens that, you know, I got from day one. I haven't sold any, haven't gotten rid of any. I'm starting to think about selling them. I'm just not sure how I'm going to go about doing that, so I'm not sure, but I'm thinking about it. A 1 in, 1 out rule, I obviously don't, since I haven't sold any of mine. Now that I'm starting to get into a bit more expensive pens, I'm definitely starting to think about a 1 in, 1 out. But like I said, most of the pens I have right now are on the lower end of pens, so I don't really know how that 1 in, 1 out, considering the ins are going to be a couple $100, the outs are going to be like 12, 20, 50. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out yet, but I definitely should impose a rule of something like that. And the buzzer just ended the question. So at this point, basically what I do is I take the water and then I pour it into my cup. Hello. I should not pour that over top of the iPad. That would be a bad decision. I like to hold on to the stem of the bag, if you want to call it that. The little thing that, like, tag. Just so that way it doesn't fall into the tea, because that drives me nuts. And then I usually set a timer for myself, especially now that I'm answering questions. This one's gonna happen to be for 3 minutes, just so I know when to stop steeping my tea. Okay, so now that that is steeping, let's move on to the next question. This one comes from Blake Cavaney. What is your favorite and least favorite filling system? Good call. I don't have any hard, fast rules as far as, you know, least favorite I'll never use again, or most favorite I only want to use. I would say the ones that I tend to lean against are going to be vacuum fillers. They definitely serve their purpose, but typically I cannot get through a pen, the amount of ink in a vacuum filler before I want to change the color, before I'm tired of using it, before I'm bored, before I need to move on. Much like in last week's answer when I was mentioning how I have to write notes, brainstorm, journal, all that kind of stuff physically. I can't do that on the computer because my brain just goes crazy and I can't focus. Kind of the same thing when it comes to pen and ink. I like to change rapidly, and I would say I don't use the same pen and ink combination for more than 3 or 4 days before I need to take it out of my rotation. So I tend to stay away from vacuum fillers for that reason. I tend to prefer cartridge converter pens. Pistons are pretty sweet. I enjoy pistons, but just for the, you know, the opposite answer that I gave to the vacuum filler, I do enjoy that I can switch them out quite frequently, and I also enjoy that they don't hold that much ink, because then I feel as though I'm able to get through it, rather than, you know, putting some back in the bottle, which can cause issues potentially, or dumping it down the drain, which is kind of wasteful. So definitely tend to prefer cartridges, or not cartridges, sorry, converters, and will usually stay away from vacuum fillers. But that said, they all have their place in time. And pistons are just kind of shoved somewhere in between. So Blake, thank you very much for your question. All right, and my timer is going off. So basically at this point, what I do is just take the tea bag, simply remove it from the water. I let it drain because I know that I'm not going to actually have a second cup of this. I will put this in our green bin, which essentially is just a compost bin, because I know I'm not going to use it. And then give it a quick stir, because I do have the rock sugar at the bottom, and because they are solid, sometimes they don't fully dissolve by the time I'm ready for it. This one luckily did. Spoon in the dishwasher, and at that point I'm ready to consume this tea. I don't put milk in this one at all, but if I do put milk, this would be the time to do so. But this one I do not. I drink as is. So that is how I make citron oolong. Oh, that's hot. When I don't put milk in tea, I forget how hot it is on the first sip. Let's head to a bit more of a comfortable spot and I'll continue answering some questions. Much more comfortable in here than in there. All right, so I got my tea going. Now let's get to the next question. So Martinez House asks, loving the triple T format. From my perspective, 30 minutes is a good fit for triple T. Okay, good feedback. I saved your video until I could enjoy sipping tea. Good idea. My tea choice for this week's triple T was Trader Joe's ginger and pear tea. I didn't enjoy the tea though. I followed the steeping time frame and it was too weak. Prior to the tea, I had a cup of coffee and wondered if that affected how I perceived the delicate tea. Regardless of my tea, I savor triple T for your creating a community. Thank you. I will be going to Indy this month, which has a David's tea. I've never been to David's tea before. Any suggestions for lower caffeine teas? First of all, thanks for the compliments. I love it. Second of all, yes, drinking tea right after coffee can definitely affect the flavor. It's just like anything, you know, if you eat something really sweet, like if you eat a sucker or, you know, any kind of candy, and then you eat like a strawberry or something like that right after, that strawberry is going to seem significantly more sour than it would have had you not had the candy right before that. It does affect your taste buds. If you drink like a bunch of water or something to like cleanse your palate right before you move to the tea, that will help. And the steeping time frames that they give you on like the package, that's just a general guideline. It's by no means what you have to stick to. I tend to steep my teas longer than most of the general guidelines. With black teas or pu'era teas, sometimes I'll steep it a little bit closer to what they call, but most of the time I'm like a minute or 2 minutes longer. Because steeping longer just means that your flavor is going to be more strong, more pronounced. You didn't say if you had any additives like milk or anything to here, but if you do add additives like milk, that will also dilute your tea flavor as well. So if you add stuff like that, just steep it a little bit longer. As far as suggestions for lower caffeine teas, any rooibos tea is either going to be caffeine free or it'll be negligible as far as the caffeine content. So any rooibos tea is going to be good. Benefits to those other than the caffeine is that they make all kinds of stuff. They make fruity flavored stuff. They make spicy chai flavored and everywhere in between. So you can really get a wide variety of rooibos. You can either go on their website and look up their information there because they do have caffeine content breakdowns of every tea they have, or just simply ask them in store. Because some black teas are going to be stronger than others, some green teas, some pu'eras, you know, they're all going to have different caffeine content. Matcha is a green tea, so if you get ceremonial grade, you're looking for about the same caffeine content as a coffee. But the big difference though between matcha and coffee, and this is actually something I just learned recently, coffee, when you drink it, it'll pretty much hit you right away. All that caffeine will surge through your system, and then you'll be needing, you know, another cup in like an hour, 2 hours. It's kind of like, you know, foods you eat, like carbohydrates will go through you quite quickly. It'll give you a big boost of energy, but then you're going to drop pretty quickly after that. Whereas matcha is more slow burning. It's kind of like fiber and protein. So you get the same, generally the same caffeine content, but it releases it slowly over 6 to 8 hours. So it gives you that caffeine boost, but it kind of keeps you sustained, which I thought was really cool. As far as like specific suggestions, I like to go mint when I get rooibos. Any chocolate mint flavors, that's usually what I get. So who knows? Let me know what you think. Essentially, you can always ask the David's Tea people, and you can get them to give you samples too. They'll just give you little bits of each. They'll get you to smell them. They're really great. They know their stuff. This one is from Papa Rock 46, who I've seen you comment on my videos since pretty much video 1, so thank you. Hi Carrie, I loved your video. When I saw it was 30 minutes long, I stopped you, made a cup of tea, Earl Grey, and sat to have tea with you this afternoon. You made me smile when you said you felt you were the only one weird enough to enjoy watching ink come out of the pen onto paper. I thought I was the only one who felt that way. Well, apparently there's lots of us, so that's good news. Over the period of time you've been writing with fountain pens, do you feel as though your handwriting has improved? I struggle with mine, but a fountain pen helps. Thanks for the video. Yeah, I do. My handwriting has definitely improved. When I was in elementary school, specifically grade 6, my teacher would not let us write in anything other than cursive. It wasn't the school board or the school in general's decision to do that. It was just something that she kind of forced on us, which at the time I hated because I was a printer through and through. I thought I had pretty neat writing, and as soon as I started cursive, it was like almost illegible. Side note, she's kind of been fired now. She was not a very good teacher, but that's the one thing I do at least thank her for. But after grade 6, I never cursive wrote again. It was kind of like a blend between the two, printing and cursive, and mostly because I was too lazy to form proper letters. And then a few years ago when I started getting into fountain pens, I just naturally went back to cursive writing. It wasn't that I chose necessarily, I just found the ink flow was a lot better with cursive writing than it was printing. And I liked the way it felt. And And I do find that a fountain pen absolutely will help my writing. When I write with the dreaded ballpoint again, my instinct is to start cursive writing again because that's what I've been doing for so long with fountain pens, but my writing is terrible with them. It just doesn't flow the same. You don't get that same smooth action. So I usually revolve back to printing if I have to use a pen like that. It's not something that I have specifically practiced. I would say it's improved only because I'm writing significantly more now. So, I mean, I haven't sat down, you know, with a cursive book or done, you know, practice or anything. And actually, based on your Instagram, I've seen you practice, so good on you. It's always one of those things where I'm like, I should do it, but as of right now, I don't necessarily have the drive to. I appreciate everyone's calligraphy. I can appreciate the time and the effort and the talent that goes into cursive writing, especially when you get into like Spencerian, and, you know, even just italic writing, anything, you know, big, flashy, and bold. I really admire. I don't think my handwriting is terrible, like just my natural flow, like what I would write with journaling kind of thing. But it certainly could use some work. I'm just not ready to dedicate time to that quite yet. But in a long way, yes, I do feel my handwriting has gotten better, but I think that's only just because I'm writing more. It's not because of anything I've been putting into it. So, yeah. All right, so this one's also from Martina's House. It said, also, could you share your thoughts behind how you store your tea? Have you personally noticed a decrease in the tea's flavor over time depending on how it's stored? Warmly, Carol. So I already showed my tea collection, which is basically how I store it. In the tins, they will last about a year before they go bad. They don't ever go bad. I've had teas at my cottage, which is not air conditioned, it's not anything. So, I mean, that is just based on the elements there. I've had teas there for several years in tins like that. And because the tea does lose its flavor the longer you have it, but it happens so gradually, and you just mentally know what to expect when you make a cup, that you don't notice when tea starts to lose its flavor until you buy fresh tea. So for an example, I just got a couple of teas from Tivana. One of them is called Cocoa Mint Black. And that was one of the teas that I was obsessed with when I first started getting into teas, like a couple years, 5 years ago, 2009. Anyway, so I bought that in and around the time. And I absolutely loved it. And that was one of the ones I took up to my cottage, got pushed kind of into the back of the drawer, and I just forgot it was there. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, I found it. I was like, sweet, I remember this tea. It's friggin' delicious. So I made myself a cup. I did purposely steep it longer because I knew, being that old, it was going to be a little bit weaker. So I did steep it for almost double the time. And I really enjoyed it. It still tasted the same to me from what I remembered. It was still really good. And then I finished it, and Tivana luckily still sells that tea, so I bought myself a new one. And it's a lot stronger. It's definitely a lot stronger. Tea, at least I didn't notice that it was necessarily like stale. Like, you know, when you eat bread or crackers, like when it's stale, it gets that like, ugh, gross. I don't notice that with most teas. I don't really get that feeling, but you do. You lose the flavor. So, long-winded way of saying, if you keep them in the tins, then they should last about a year before they'll start their process of losing flavor. If you keep them in bags that they come in, then they can do that quicker because they're open to the air more often. The biggest tip I guess I can give you is if you buy large quantities. So sometimes Teavana or David's Tea will have like tea 50% off if you buy a larger quantity, maybe like 100 grams, 250 grams, somewhere around there. And price per unit, it works out to be a good deal if you do that. So if you buy larger quantities, what I'll do is I'll fill a tin that I have, which usually fits about 100 grams, and then I'll put the rest in the freezer. It sounds weird to put tea in a freezer, but it will keep it significantly longer. And that way you can kind of continue to go back to it. You know, when your tin gets almost empty, you can refill it. Just let it chill for a while. Well, I guess not chill, it would be unchilling. But anyway, you can just kind of let it hang out, and because it's not going to freeze, like it's not going to be like rock solid. It's just going to get really, really cold. So yeah, definitely put some in the freezer. If you only have like a few teas, if you only have like 50 grams to 100 grams, I wouldn't even sweat it. Chances are you're going to go through it, you know, within a year or so. Like I said, it's kind of like the expiration date on food, like, you know, yogurt or whatever. If the expiration date says, you know, August 23rd, doesn't mean that August 23rd, strike of midnight, that's going to be super bad food. It could be like a day before, it could be a week after, who knows? It's a general guideline. And that's the general guideline for tea, is in and around a year is when it will start its process of becoming stale. Guys, once again, thank you so much for, you know, tuning in. Hopefully a bunch of you made teas with me. I gotta say, it's looking pretty ominous outside. They're calling for some severe thunderstorms. We already went through one round that had a tornado warning, so hopefully I'm still alive to post this. But you know, leave any questions down below. Doesn't necessarily have to be pen or tea related. It could be personal, anything really, any question that pops into your head. Leave it down below, I'll take a read, and like I said, if I don't answer you in the comments, it's because I've scheduled it to answer on camera. If I do answer you in the comments, it's usually because I don't feel like I can really flesh out a big answer, but I can answer it pretty well written. You know, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. If you really like the video, hit the subscribe. These I want to commit to every Tuesday still in September and beyond to these tea times. But in September, my reviews will start coming back. So that would push it to 3 videos a week, you know, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So I don't know if that's too much. So I mean, I'm definitely going to try and continue Triple T as best as I can. It may go bi-weekly. I haven't decided yet, but it's something that I definitely want to continue doing because I really enjoy doing it. I love answering all your questions this way, and frankly, I can talk for a really, really long time, and sometimes my individual pen reviews are, well, they're pen reviews, so they're focused. I don't get to kind of like, you know, communicate and chat. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.